Chelsea fans, we go into the international break currently sitting third in the Premier League table, and we haven't been that high in the table for a good few years. Enzo Maresca has had a fantastic start to the Premier League under Chelsea. Chelsea fans have been overall very happy. I'm a very optimistic fan. I've been very happy with Enzo Maresca's work. However, there are things that he needs to improve if Chelsea want to go on and win things, and in this video I'm going over 5 things that Enzo Maresca needs to improve if Chelsea are to compete for trophies. We'll be going through the list one by one and I'll be giving my general thoughts and opinions, but make sure you watch to the end because number 4 and especially number 5 I really need your opinion on. So if you are a Chelsea fan and enjoy Chelsea content, make sure you leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're new around here, and let's get into the video. And number 1 is the left back experiment. For me personally, if you have a left back and a right back who are good in their positions, they should stick to those positions. And what Enzo Maresca has been doing recently is playing Reece James as a left back. Maybe it's to accommodate Gusto on the other side. Me personally, I don't want to see it anymore. Reece James has played well at left back, but we have Cucurella, who in my eyes is one of, if not the best left backs in the league in terms of consistency and what he gives you in a Chelsea shirt. He is everywhere. He gives you 120% every single game. He doesn't put a foot wrong. He can defend out in wider areas. He can defend well as a back 3 if he needs to tuck in. He can invert into midfield very naturally. He can support the left winger. You can sometimes see him in number 10 pockets of space. This guy is everywhere. And Reece James has come back from a long string of injuries. He's stayed fit. Enzo Maresca has said he plays 1 game a week, so play him at right back, his most natural position. I don't really want to be seeing Gusto right back who goes up and inverts, and then you have Reece James at left back. Why is Cucurella going to sit out? Because he's not going to play Conference League games. He may play FA Cup games and other cup competitions that we're in, but in my opinion, the Premier League should be Marc Cucurella left back, Reece James right back, and rotate Reece James out with Gusto. If James isn't fit, start Gusto. Because we saw against Arsenal how good Marc Cucurella was. He had Bukayo Saka in his back pocket the entire game. And Reece James is more natural as a right back. Yes, Maresca isn't asking him to bomb up and bomb down as much as we like to see him do so. But that's fine. If he's going to tuck into that back 3 and we invert from the left, I feel like Chelsea are more comfortable that way. Number 2 is midfield balance. Now, this is a tricky one because we have Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo, and it's trying to figure out how we can utilize these 3 players and get a midfield balance. Now, me personally, I like the Caicedo and Lavia defensive pairing. I think it's a brick wall. It works very well. Lavia has great distribution. Caicedo is an absolute beast and has been performing at a very high level for a long time. However, I do feel in certain games, certain spells of the game, we do lack creativity. You bring on Enzo, you lose some of that defensive stability, but you gain a lot creatively. We saw this again against Arsenal. We know that Romeo Lavia isn't fully fit to play a full 90 in the intensity of the role that he plays. So it's a nice swap to bring off Lavia, bring on Enzo, and then Enzo comes on, has a little less defensively. He does do the defensive dirty work, he does do the defensive duties, but we rely heavily on Caicedo in that situation to cover what lacks defensively from Enzo, but we get a big boost in creativity. Prime example against Arsenal, we bring on Enzo, and I know it was a simple pass, but it was being a bit further forward, having that bit more of a attacking creative mind to lay the ball off to Neto to get the goal in. And we have seen this many times this season where Enzo has the creativity but not defensively. And when it's backfired with Caicedo and Enzo, Enzo's defensive capabilities leaves Caicedo very isolated and we get ran through. But then on the other hand, when you have Caicedo and Lavia, they dominate the midfield and they stop most of the press and the counterattacks from the opposition. But creatively, it means Palmer has to drop deeper to receive the ball. When Enzo's on the pitch, you typically see Palmer being able to stay a bit further forward. Enzo can kind of work out those angles and get the ball to Palmer a lot easier, or even to the wingers or to Jackson or Nkunku, whoever he's playing with up front. So I feel like midfield balance is something that Enzo has to work on. Number 3 is in-game management. Now this is a bit of a tricky one because when Enzo Maresca started at Chelsea, he was making very assured, decisive decisions early on in the game, sometimes at half-time bringing players off because he saw things needed changing. He was also experimenting with some rotation and players in different positions within his system to see what works. And I totally back that. And I feel like a lot of Chelsea fans really like the fact that it was such a stark difference from Pochettino, because Pochettino would wait and then make the change, and it was too late for him to make a difference. Maresca started the season off very much like that. This isn't working, get him off, get someone else on. We need the system to work. We need to get in the game. We need to get control. Maybe we need to get back into the game. Maybe we need to kill the game off. Maybe we just need to break the deadlock. It was very decisive. In the last few games, there have been certain players that either haven't been playing as well, or they look tired, or, fresh legs just need to be injected into the game, and he's waited and waited and waited. And the prime example is Noni Madueke. When he's needed to come off, he's waited too long for that. Maybe Palmer against Arsenal. He looked tired. He was having a bit of a quiet game. Maybe you inject João Felix into that game with a bit of fresh legs and someone who's plays that role, but slightly different creatively. You've got Nicholas Jackson. I feel like he had a good game. Even though he had limited service, I feel like he played well. But bring him off a little bit later. Bring in on Kunku. Don't give him 5 to 7 minutes. It's not enough to keep these players happy, and it's not enough to really make a difference in the way that it can. I will give him credit where it's due, because some of his changes, like he brought on Mudryk. All right, he had a bit of a quiet game against Arsenal. I felt like as soon as Mudryk come on the pitch, the ball didn't really go down the left-hand side too much. It was more focused on giving the ball to Neto because he was such a threat all game. So sometimes that happens, and Maresca will make that early change. But sometimes it feels like, as the season's going on, he's making these decisions to change the players when it needs to be changed earlier, a little bit later, whether he's holding out for the players that are currently playing to make that change in the game, make that difference, so that he can kind of believe in the philosophy and the system. Or maybe he's just thinking, actually, maybe we've got a game coming up, or this player just isn't suited for this type of game. At the end of the day, he's the manager. He knows more than we do. We are just fans that express our opinions. But there have been times this season where you think, should probably make that change a little bit earlier. And I feel like it's something that Maresca can, if he sticks to, like he did at the start of the season, I feel like it could be a lot more impactful throughout this season, and it will give us more results. Number 4 is a new world-class centre-back. Now, this is something that in recent weeks, a lot of people in my TikTok comment section have been bombarding me with. Chelsea need a new centre-back. Our centre-backs aren't good enough. We need a new centre-back. Please get rid of Disasi. Get rid of Benoit Badiashile. Colwell and Fofana aren't good enough. Me personally, I really like the Colwell-Fofana partnership, and it is growing stronger the more they play together. I felt like Fofana had a very good game against Arsenal. I feel Colwell played okay. He had a relatively good game, wasn't his best. But again, there have been times in the season where they've both lunged in, made silly challenges, silly mistakes, give away silly fouls, sometimes penalties, when it could be avoided. On the other hand, Benoit Badiashile and Axel Disasi, I feel like they are on borrowed time at Chelsea. And for Benoit Badiashile, I've made it very public. I just don't rate the guy. I don't think he's very good. I think after his injury, he's not being the same player. And if we sold him, cool. The door's open. Thank you, but bye. Axel Disasi is a bit of a weird one for me. I feel like if he's used as a centre-back solely, he could do a good job as a backup. But sometimes we play him as a right-back because we invert from that side, or we invert from the left and he tucks in as a third centre-back. I don't know if he's got the technicality to be a Chelsea player in Enzo's system, as he's not an typical Enzo Maresca player, right? He didn't buy him, didn't bring him into the club for that. I also feel like Milk turns quicker than Disasi. Like, he's just very slow. He's built like a unit, and he can be very good for us. I feel like he's just a bit inconsistent, and I don't think he cuts the mustard when it comes to what Enzo's trying to build. However, Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea are actively scouting, monitoring, and starting some contacts for centre-backs in Europe. It's a position they are really looking at. It could be January or next summer. Thomas Orejo is a player that they love. Now, in the summer, said I would love to get Orejo. I would love it. I think he would fit the bill perfectly. He's good on the ball. I think he's on a relatively short side. I might have to fact check me on that. But he's good on the ball. He's technically good, playing out from the back. He's a solid defender, no-nonsense defender, and he fits the sort of age policy that Chelsea are following. I think he'd be fantastic. And if that is the case, does this mean that Benoit Badiashile and Axel Disasi are leaving Chelsea? I personally feel like they're the two centre-backs that we would look to replace within this rotation back four scenario that we've got. Number 5, a world-class goalkeeper. This had to make the list. Robert Sanchez is not good enough to be Chelsea's number 1. We are all aware of that. We've seen his mistakes. We've seen how inconsistent he is. But again, I will give him credit where it's due. He's made some outrageous saves already this season to keep us in the games. The away clean sheets, very well worked for him. No mistakes, no nonsense, did his job, showed us what he is capable of doing. Save against Nottingham Forest to keep us in it, voted save of the month for October. Class, kept us in the game. You know, dying embers of the game, a chance like that, and he pulls off that save. He's also shown us how useless he can be. The goals he gave against Brighton, his distribution can be very poor. It's very hit and miss. He's not confident playing out from the back, despite what Enzo Maresca keeps coming out and saying. On the other hand, we have Jorgensen, who has played in the Conference League mainly and some cup competitions. An atrocious game against Newcastle. You could see how cagey and shaky he looked. His distribution was relatively good, but Newcastle wasn't really playing a high press. In the Premier League, Robert Sanchez had a relatively good game against Newcastle, but again, Newcastle weren't playing a relatively high press, so it was easy to play it from the back. They triggered their press, not as high up, but when they did trigger their press, when they played us in the cup game, they absolutely decimated us. They decimated us. And Jorgensen didn't have a good game that game. So I don't think Jorgensen is fully ready to be Chelsea's number one. I feel like it's something he could push towards. But I also don't feel that Robert Sanchez can stay Chelsea's number one for a long period of time if we really want to kick on and win things, because that is where our errors come from. It is centrally from centre-backs to the goalkeeper. Now, I'm not saying it's all Colwell and Fofana. I'm not saying it's all Sanchez. I think it's a mixture of things. I don't think that they fully trust themselves as that triangle. I feel like Fofana and Colwell's partnership is getting better and they're getting stronger as a team. I don't think they trust Sanchez, and I don't think Sanchez trusts himself at times. His decision-making is very, very poor. Whether it's distribution, coming out for crosses, whether it's coming out for attackers in the box ready to take a shot. I mean, against Arsenal, he conceded at his near post. Now, I did say in my post-match interview, because it's always straight away, that, yeah, Martinelli really put his boot through that, and it was more of a hit and hope, just get it on target, it might go in, and it did. But when you look back at it, yes, it had a lot of pace on it, but you shouldn't be conceding from your near post like that. Now, I do kind of feel for Sanchez in a few of these occasions where we've conceded, because it's a double-edged sword in the sense that if he stays on his line and concedes, we would all shout at him that he needs to go out and make himself look big. If he goes out and make himself look big and then concedes, we tell him that he should have stayed on his line. So in that sense, I empathise with him, right? And he is very public in saying, look, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be a better goalkeeper. I want to be the best that I can be for Chelsea. And I really admire that. But there comes a point where it's all about what your performances are on the pitch. And if it's so inconsistent where we constantly concede every game, then it needs to change. Something needs to change. We're playing a system where we play out from the back, and yes, you typically concede more because mistakes are made, you know, in our own defensive third. But that's why Maresca wants technical players. Now, I think that we should go out and go get a goalkeeper in January and really sort of tie this, nip the seed in the bud as soon as we can, because I feel like Sanchez is going to cost us a lot of goals across the period of the season, which could, in turn, take us out of the top four. It could take us out of the top four, and that's where we're ultimately trying to get to this season. Not for the title like some fans are getting excited about, but getting into the top four, securing Champions League football, and a good run, if not winning the Conference League. I think they are the two main goals for us. And again, Jorgensen may come good and fight Sanchez for his place, but I don't think he's quite ready for it just yet. That's just my opinion. And I feel like we need to bring in a ball-playing goalkeeper of a very high quality to just shore up the net and give our centre-backs and our defensive line more confidence in him and their distribution. So they are my 2 cents on that. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think of this list, the 5 things that Chelsea need to improve if they want to compete for trophies. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. If you're new around here, I upload Chelsea content as often as I can and daily content on my TikTok channel. The link is in the description, and I shall see you in the next video.